We can do certain major and then some different.
You want me at 8 o'clock, let's call the meeting order. All members are present. I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as published and also approve the minutes from the November 1st meeting as published. Moved by John, seconded by Virginia to adopt the agenda and approve the minutes from November 1st. Any discussion? All in favor? Say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Public comment? Anyone here for public comment? Hearing none, let's move on to item 6, the monthly administrative reports.
So for the month of in October, for the month of September, sales tax collected was $142,113, bringing the year-to-date total to $1,038,000. And at this pace, we're gonna pass 1.5 million by the end. The next couple of months, it's probably gonna dip down like normal, and then the last few months of the year with Christmas, it always jumps back up. But I don't have any doubt we're gonna hit 1.5 million unless something drastic happens. Contingency balance as of right now, before we hit item 12, we have 69,363 in there. After item 12, assuming they're all passed, it'll be almost nothing. Any individual department issues actually are going to be addressed with the transfer request. So I'll just address those when we get there. So I have nothing else right now.
Did you have year-to-date for sales tax?
Yeah.
I mean, from previous year.
Well, previous year, no. Previous year at this point,
No,
968,293. So we're up 70,000, 8,000, about 7%, which inflation is about 7%.
Any questions for Paul? Okay, it's got medical, dental, and then overtime.
Sure. Medical dental, if you look at your sheet, it's at 92%. So we're 8% under. For medical, we're at 92% for dental, which means we're 8% under. We've got, let's see, 5 large claimants that are over, I'm sorry, no. Yes, 5 claimants that are over stop loss, which is actually a little bit under than what I've seen in the past. So we're good there. And again, overtime seems to be okay. We did have some up from Sheriff's Department, but again, that came from vacancies in the jailer dispatcher. And for those at finance that don't know, the sheriff goes over this every month within the Public Safety and Justice Committee meeting. And you'll see later on when we go to 2022 budget transfers, you'll see transfer from the wages line to the overtime line. So I don't have any issues there unless there's questions.
Any questions with that? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 7, quarterly treasurer's report. You should have seen that. Are you going to do that, Paul?
Well, Michelle's out of town. So this is fairly routine. I just want to point out something that there's 3 of them that are maturing, that had matured in October. So on the second page near the bottom of that list, there are 4 CDs that matured. We were getting 1.9 and 2%. Those were reinvested in October, and we're getting about 4.5 to 4.6%. So in that little bit of time, that's how much this has jumped up as well. So that's going to start showing. The higher interest rates are going to start showing up as these mature and they're reinvested as well.
Any questions on the treasurer's report? Moving on, steel checks.
Steel
We
checks.
go through this every year at
Yeah.
this time. Huh?
Yeah, steel checks. We have none this year, which is good. So by statute, if a check has been outstanding for 2 years, we go through the steel check process. And ultimately, we have to approve the sale check, and then we have to hang on to it for 6 years, and then it becomes county property. We have none this year. All the checks from 2 years ago that were issued have been cleared. So super simple, super easy.
Yes, I prefer that if we're paying someone that they actually cash.
Let's move on to the insurance use for our auto liability and workers' comp.
Okay. Insurance renewal, that's this page. Ideally, we would have all of these here by now, being November 11th, and many of these are due in December. We got two of the three big ones, workers' comp and liability. Those quotes are here. The rest I'll bring next month, assuming they'll show up, and they should. So workers' comp went up. The driving force behind that was our county's mod score went up from, I believe it was 0.98 up to 1.18. That's a reflection of actual claims by the county over the last 3 years.
And also wage driven.
Payrolls going up, so that goes up a little bit. The other piece of that is I forgot the name of these things, but what type of employee you are. If you're an office employee, if you're classification, there we go. Office, police, road construction, highway, and then they have this category called other municipal. Those actually went down slightly for each one, but because their mod score went up so much, then our overall premiums going up based on the estimated payroll I had at whatever time this was due. Liability went up again. That's not a big surprise. The price of everything's going up. The deductible fund portion of it, that's 16,000. That's it's a calculation of what's paid out versus what we have to have essentially in escrow with the insurance company. And I'll give you a heads up. I'm anticipating property is going to go up as well. Construction prices go up, while the insurance to cover that property has to go up also. I don't know how much yet. That hasn't arrived yet. So for today, the approval will be for workers' comp and liability.
So the workers' comp, how much did that premium go up in 2021 from the prior agreement? This seems like a pretty significant jump.
I don't have that, but I can pull it.
And is that more classification driven or more wage
I think
driven?
it went down because our mod scores were on the way down.
It's more claim driven. We had a couple that were significant workers' comp claims. We had an injury that cost us money, and so then that gets thrown into the formula.
Sure. If you can't find that prior, that's fine.
Workers' comp.
Yeah, the unfortunate part with a claim is the gift that keeps on giving for at least 2-3 years. So
You're asking premium for 21?
for 20.
20.
Yeah.
200,618.
Thank you.
Do you have what it was in 20? Or is it a 2 year? We have 21 and then 20.
No, it should be 20. 22 and 23. That was
Okay.
last year, so
Okay.
that's mislabeled. That's actually 2022's premium. And then 2021, it was 212,004.
So it went down from 21 to 22. It went from 212 to 205.
Thank you.
Workers' comp or the liability. Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve the insurance renewals for workers' comp and liability through Wisconsin County Mutual Insurance Company for the premiums as stated. John? To approve the workers' comp and liability policies for 2023. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say none. Motion carries. Thank you, Paul. And then we'll get property and the other is
Next meeting.
That's the unfortunate part, I'll be honest, for the committee is that it's almost like they purposely make sure it comes near the end, so that way it's tougher to shop those premiums. Now, I can tell you from a historical standpoint, when we talk about workers' comp liability and property, because of Wisconsin Mutual, and they allow that to be bundled, no one even, and we do it every few years, we don't do it every year, but when we put it, no one can even come close to the bundling of those. It just, they have the lowest price. So, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, moving on to the update on the Winter Park Agreement.
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Chair. So from last month, we had presented to the committee a proposed agreement to discuss with Winter Park and the Winter Park Association as to how to move forward. We did try to schedule a meeting for that to discuss that agreement. Winter Park has decided they did not want to meet. In fact, they've decided that they want to walk away and move away from being part of the agreement. So at this present time, what will happen is the county will do all of the staffing and running of the park. Again, due to staffing concerns, what we have determined for this winter park period is that we will close the ski hill, not only from a staffing standpoint, but there is also some work that had been done over the summer that was not cleaned up and finished. And so at this present time, we'll close up the ski hill for the 22-23 season, and then open that up in the following season, 23-24. If there's other questions, Mr. Myers is here as well to try to answer those questions.
This, the Winter Park Association, they just don't want to deal with it because of issues that they can't provide personnel, or they don't like what's in the agreement, or what was.
I think Mr. Myers is probably the better one to answer that question, since he's the one that had some conversations with Mr. Nelson.
Well, I think it's a multiple factors. One was we never had a true contract with that association, so they don't. I don't want to speak for them, but I don't think they felt like they wanted to sign any kind of contract. But again, as we talked last time, with the popularity that park has grown in the last 5 years, something was needed. But there's also the thing of volunteers, the lack of. A lot of work that they were working on ski run projects, those are not complete, and that's been year 2 for that. So the ski hill side of things in our staffing, 5 years ago, we would get a multitude of applications to work at that park. This year we've had 2. Last year was the same thing where we, would string together what we could. So we were working skeleton through with some of that stuff and just fighting to get everything open there. So our plan, talking to the Parks Committee, Wednesday night, they decided, we decided, I guess, as get the ski hill cleaned up this next year, get everything, trees cleaned up, and we're down, all this other stuff going on. Try to recruit a new friends group and try to have a good grand reopening of the ski hill next year. This year, the 2 will operate our house. So we started taking reservations November 1st. We already have 51, which 2 years ago would have been a record number of reservations for the whole season. Last year we had 61, which was a record. So we didn't even start getting school groups yet. So I foresee us having heavy amount of use of the 2 again this upcoming year, like we have been. That's kind of where we're at.
So I guess my understanding is with the success of the overall facility in the last number of years, the driving force was that the county was in a position that we needed to enter into some legal type of thing. Corporate counsel was, in agreement with that, and, you know, we needed to go in that direction. I would hope that that organization, I mean, I'm sure I speak for everyone, we're grateful for the success it's been through all these years, these many years. And hopefully if they choose to come back to the county to look at working something out, I would hope that they know the door is
We've
open.
been continuing to have discussions, so they're still gonna help us out with every, you know, if so they're going on vacation a lot this winter, but they're willing to help us out where we need it, training stuff, you know, anything like that to help out and to help finding a new friends group, if that's a possibility.
I would hope that, you know, with Barry wanting to step away from it, I think that we really need to say a thank you to Barry
Oh, absolutely.
for his many years that he has put into that
Yeah.
project.
The entire
Sometimes with his own money.
So we'll put something, obviously we haven't made an official announcement of anything, so just have a meeting this week, but I think we'll put something out on social media. I'm not sure what that'll look like yet, but.
So, may I ask a question on that?
Gary.
May I ask one? So the funding that, obviously, they must be holding some money.
Yes,
I would assume so, yes.
Okay, so are they legally obligated to give that back to the county?
No, they are not.
They are not. Okay,
That'd be no different than if, when the county gives money to KCC or VIP, and let's say that they were to fold up through the course of the
Okay.
year, there's no obligation for them to
okay, I had
return.
talked to Dave about that yesterday, and he said he thought they were gonna refund the money, but I was just wondering if that was a thing they had to do.
No, it is money under their possession. They are not legally required.
Thank you.
It's not really a return, and there's no expectation of return because it's never the county's money.
Correct.
So
Well, I mean, I guess what I was gonna say
I'm
is,
going to slightly change what you just said. Corporation Council. I won't say that it wasn't ever our money. It's just the money that was generated at a county park for functions that we ultimately oversee. It was agreed, though not on paper, that those funds would go to the Winter Park group.
so
So I
my
wanna be
question is
careful.
gonna be, if they do return any money,
Yeah,
that stay in the parks?
sorry, go ahead.
Setting up a separate fund for Winter Park.
Thank
Which we
So-
were doing regardless.
Yeah,
you. Perfect.
that was part of the agreement, but we're gonna do that anyway, because
Okay.
it's grown to a point where we really should do
Enterprise.
this.
So,
Yeah.
so
There's-
then
there's
anything they
equipment to-
made,
yeah.
will go back, revert back
Yes.
into improvements of the park.
Yes, there's equipment to be purchased there in the next decade or so that's gonna be costly.
Or less,
I guess
Or
that
less,
was-
or
yeah.
less.
probably 5 years or less.
Any other questions for Dave? Basically, your committee is going forward with your plan, and we are not going to be entering into a formal agreement at this time.
Correct.
Thanks, Dave.
Next, David.
All right, next on the item on the agenda is the purchase of a proposed purchase agreement with the DNR on a piece of right of way in town of Red River.
Correct. Wisconsin DOT owns parcel of surplus land, and you have that in your packets. Because of that, the Wisconsin DOT no longer has any use for that parcel. What is usually policy and procedure for them is they offer that parcel up for purchase from a local government. And so they had sent us a letter requesting gauging our interest in a possible purchase of that property. From my standpoint, I don't know of any specific reason that we would need to purchase it. And therefore I'm not recommending it. But again, this is a decision of the Finance and Public Property Committee to make that decision. I'm not sure if Highway had done anything as well as to whether they needed it or not. I think when I spoke with Todd, he had no purpose for it either. So again, it would be up to the committee as to whether we would entertain a purchase. If not, then I can sign and send a letter basically saying that we have or have not any interest in purchasing of the property.
I know we talked about this at highway yesterday, and there's really no interest in highway department. I don't personally see any reason why the county would want this piece.
I mean, it's, if we want to get into the residential housing development business, sure, maybe, but I don't think that's what this committee or the county really necessarily wants to be doing with this parcel of land.
Generally, I know that if the county or the local town or city village aren't interested, a lot of times they'll just
They'll put it on
transfer it back
Wisconsin
to-
Oh,
or
gotcha.
transfer it back to the budding property owner. Or
Gotcha.
try to sell it on surplus.
Usually they'll try to sell it, yeah.
There are options, but
Right.
I don't know, unless somebody else says any specific feelings on this. As far as the county purchasing is concerned, I would not recommend, I would entertain a motion to not purchase the
Do we
property.
need a motion?
It might be better just so I have something official.
Somebody like moving it.
I'll move to decline making an offer on the DOT parcel estimate.
Moved by Jeff, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, hearing none, motion carried.
Thank you, everyone.
Item is the approval of the 2022 budget transfers.
We're in November again, so we have 5 departments that have requests for transferring funds. Public health is a little different. So the administrator, this one, I don't know if this has come up before. UW Extension moved the cost of moving and furnishing and getting ADRC into that space was a little bit more than anticipated. So, signage was needed. There's some maintenance of space, carpeting, painting, one of those. The furniture for the extension actually was more than anticipated, probably because it's 2022 and everything costs more. So a little more was needed there, about 10,000 would cover it. And that would be coming out of contingency. Land Information Office, the GIS consultant with Steve retiring, it was a best guess of how much time they would need and what the bill would be. Again, guessed a little bit low on that. The Land Information has its own fund balance, so that one would be coming out of the LIO fund balance. Register and probate, because of the changes in the judge and the changes in courts, had increase in GAL fees and legal fees to the tune of about 17,600. So her request was to cover the expense for that. And if we look back on that actual form, she also had an increase in revenue, quite a bit of increase in revenue. So she didn't have to ask for all 17,600 coming from contingency when her revenue would cover some of that. That's a conservative estimate of the revenue. One is going way over, one is going to come, it's going to be okay. So 10,000 of the 17,600 can be covered by the department's revenue, and the others, well, I got that backwards. 8,000 is coming out of contingency. The balance would be out of the department revenue, 9,600. The sheriff's department, being the sheriff's office, you know, $4+ million. There's a lot of moving parts there. This one happens every year. This year, though, the items, most of the time, one line cover the other. This year, again, 2022 being 2022. The replacement of vehicles, the order was canceled and then had to reorder at the course of additional fee. The sheriff's department uses quite a bit of gas because you have a fleet of vehicles out there, and there's extra was needed for that. And then there's a repair to the communication equipment on one or more of the towers. That was an $11,000 bill that wasn't planned for. So again, some of this can come out of other accounts. Contingency would be 47,881 for them. And with those 4 then, or, whatever came out of contingency, we're down to 1,800 and change in the contingency. So we've never been this low before, but we've never had a year like this before either.
Paul, what's gonna happen with that GIS?
GIS?
I mean, what we're paying, if we have to continue to pay Rupert Wilkie to do that work, that is going to be substantially higher, is it not?
We bumped it up in 2023 budget. It's still less than if we had a LIO officer.
Right, I get that, but we were banking on those savings, and if we, I mean, it was, when you say it was significantly less, it's significantly less than when we had, who was the individual that retired?
Mr. Hanson.
Yeah, so it's significantly less than having him here full-time, but not significantly less than the way that we set it up with the recent, with the one that we got the recent resignation for, correct? You understand my question? So with the resignation of the part-time GIS IT
Oh, that one?
assistant, if we end up in a situation where we have to continue to pay more to Rupert Wilkie, that's going to be substantially higher, is it not?
I would expect that in the short term, because the job's been reposted for the IT GIS. In the short term, while we have no one here and while we're getting trained to do that, the job description remains the same. Yeah, it'll go up. And then when we fill the position, resume the activities, we should be back down to, I won't say down to where it was budgeted in 22, that was low, but a little bit higher where it is in 2022. So for the time while there is no help desk / GIS person, somebody still has to do that work. Okay, last is the public health. Now, public health department has a lot of grants. They routinely get adjustments to those grants. So the form it's on isn't really the right form. It's not a transfer. It's actually a change to the grant. So it's an adjustment. But I'm not going to get hung up on what form it's on. The information is correct. So they have 5 different grants. The grants, some of them went up, some went down. So if the grant revenue goes up or down, the related expenditures then have to go up or down as well. And all they're doing is bringing their best guess at budget time into what their grants actually are. So that bottom section there with public health is doing just that. Because of the dollar amounts, the sheriff and public health will have to go to resolution before the board because in total is over 20,000. Public health is because it's changing the grant amounts. The rest of them are under 20,000 and they stop at this committee.
On administrator and the UW extension furniture, what was the total cost of all of that furniture?
55,000.
Thank you.
And then as for some of the maintenance and those types of things, signage, making the door that's over there by the county courthouse, making that an ADA accessible, that you press a button and then it can automatically open, some things like that. Bless you. No, they're not.
Any questions on the proposed adjustments? No, because these are from different funds, do you want a motion on each individual one or?
However, pleases the committee, at least in this respect, if
One,
Yeah.
because some are contingency and some are intra-departmental.
if it's fine with the committee, then it's fine with us.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion then to approve the 2022 budget adjustments as presented. Virginia, second by Steve, to approve the proposed 2022 budget adjustments. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, hearing none, motion carried. Thank you, Paul. Next on the agenda, the vendor payments, those were posted online. Wants to look at them. Any questions on the vendor payments? Done. Move on to item 14, approval of the supplemental payroll as proposed. Motion to approve the payroll as proposed. Moved by John, second by Virginia to approve the supplemental payroll. Any discussion? Not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, hearing none, motion carried. Any other matters, Scott, to come before the committee?
No.
I have
Anyone have
one,
anything?
I have a
Chairman
question.
Olson?
We had 2020, our FTEs were 146.84. 2023, they're going to be at 150.06. So that's a plus
Yeah, we get to share.
3.22.
Gotcha.
Plus 3.22. So we're supposed to be, what are the plans for keeping this? Because we had set it to be when we approved the jail. Does anybody have an answer how we're going to be doing that?
I'm sorry, what is the question, Mr. Chair?
2020, we had 146.84 FTEs.
Mm-hmm.
2022, 147.35. 2023, 150.06. That's plus 3.22 for 2020.
Yes, sir.
We were supposed to be keeping this level. We were going up.
Absolutely, we're going up, Mr. Chair. If you looked prior, when first proposed, the FTE count would have been 147.06, which would have actually been a decrease from 2022. So you have a 3 FTE increase because we're starting to do the ramping up and hiring of jailer dispatchers for the jail.
Right? So where are we going to, so we're going to be reducing these. Getting back to where are the FTEs going to be ending up when the jail is completed?
Again, as we're starting to look, you had 2 from Land and Water. We have still another 2 years. We look to hopefully have another one possibly in Human Services, maybe one in the courthouse. Is the question about the FTE level, or is it the question about being able to afford the FTEs?
So the FTE level is related directly to being able to afford. We were told that we were going to be keeping the FTEs flat, that we would be finding those 5.5 positions. So I'm just inquiring as to where we're at with that. Because we can't, obviously, if you add FTEs or don't reduce as you add, that directly affects your ability to afford.
Again, I'll say the question or give the response that as we move forward towards jail, we'll continue to be looking at positions to try to combine or no longer fill through attrition. Can I give you specifically what those are right now? I have ideas, but again, until that happens and then bring that forward to the committee, I can't tell you who specifically that will be eliminated. I guess the question that I would then ask to the committee is there a concern that by having this increase from 147.06 to 150.06, that there is a concern from a budgetary standpoint? Again, I want to put this into a more contextual standpoint. When I first began in 2015, the FTE count was 147.22. So over the course of 7 years, with all the changes that have happened within the county, we have remained level. We're now having a $27 million facility, which is going to require 5.5 new staff. Again, as the county administrator, I will do as best as I can to keep FTE levels as low as possible. I can't guarantee as to what those levels may be, only because as the future goes on, we have to make those adjustments as they come. Go ahead, sorry.
Question would be, Bill, even if we stay at, say that we add 5.5 positions to the current, what do you see, 147.06?
Correct.
we had 5.5 positions, put us at 150, 256. Do we still stay within levy limits?
Yes,
There's no choice. You have to stay within limit.
No, that's the question.
I guess-
We'll still be within those, we'll still be within those. If nothing else happens to decrease our belly button count.
and if,
Something else has to happen. You can't stay under limits without doing nothing and adding three positions.
Correct.
The other positions will happen. There you go. The sheriff in August or September or so laid out when he needs to start hiring, which was really, and I would have anticipated, but 2025 is closer. to this picture too.
Oh, it's supposed to.
So it's coming up and there'll be a couple more that have to resolve.
Sure.
Not today.
and I'll provide the other, again, in looking at this, not this year, but years prior, we knew this was coming. And therefore, I prepped early that to kind of putting away money, because year after year, we have been putting more money into fund balance than we've been taking out. And on a consistent basis, we have consistently been under budgeting the amount of tax levy that we then receive. Part of the reason why was knowing that with something like this happening, and more than likely the need for additional staff, that we would have a consistent revenue source to help offset some of that increase in additional staff.
That's temporary.
No, it is not, Mr. Chair. Sales tax is not a temporary revenue source.
It's not completely, I mean, you don't know, you can't predict and assume that that's going to be consistently higher.
We can predict, but we have consistently under budgeted what we receive in sales tax. And for that express reason that we believe that in the future with a new facility, that additional staff would be needed. Now, I am not saying that the under budgeting of sales tax is going to cover all of the FTEs that would be required for a new facility. I would not say that, nor have I said that. But I do believe that the utilization and budgeting and allocation of some of that sales tax revenue to therefore pay for additional staff for a new facility is justified.
That's not what we had, that's not what we had discussed. What we had discussed is we were finding these 5.5 positions. We didn't discuss using sales tax.
I will respectfully disagree, Mr. Chair, in that when we provided information to the committee, we've talked about how we would pay for it, is that we would do some staff reductions, but in that same respect, we were also going to utilize sales tax revenue for part of the budgeting of this. If the committee so chooses, I can bring back those documents to show to the supervisors. And in that same respect, a jailer dispatcher with salaries and benefits is going to cost more than an administrative assistant in land and water. To a certain, and in many ways, they cost more than a conservation specialist in land and water. They'll cost more than a person in the courthouse. So some of that has to be made up, and and we budgeted and projected that we would make that up in sales tax revenue.
Doesn't answer your question. I know I was looking to see if we had that sheet that we looked at. back
Doesn't
in July
address my
when-
concerns, but I guess it answers the question.
But it-
Like, we have about 650-ish thousand of operating costs, which the biggest part of that was employees. So to come up with the 650-ish, we had increase in sales tax, some budget trimming here and there, a number of positions. And that would take care of the operating costs when the jail. So in that bigger 650, sales tax is part of it. Some of the positions are part of it. Not all of it's happening all at the same time. And there is going to be some overlap. Obviously, we have to have where jailers come on board now. For a while, we're gonna have two buildings, one being built, one still being used. Once we get over that hump and get back down to normal, hopefully that building goes away. Hopefully we were pinpoint on their estimates for utility costs for a building we haven't built yet. But a lot of things in the budget and even day to day are best estimates. And I think we're pretty good. The timing of this could be a little unknown. Obviously, what the economy is doing and cost of living is a little bit unknown. But I think we're still on track. We said 650. We found a good chunk of it this year, not all of it. We know that there's more positions to come. And I think by the time the jail opens, those will fall into place. There's just gonna be some overlap for a while.
So we've added full-time corporation counsel. We'll also be adding human services director. And so we're adding at the same time. My caution to this committee and to the board, it seems to me that any cuts we seem to find, we find ways to add. So whether or not we are going to be on target. But, you know, I guess I will tell.
I will address part of that when we talk about the corporation counsel and the human services director. We had an opportunity as a county to save some money by combining those positions. It was never my belief, though it may have been this committee or some other supervisor's belief, that the position would permanently be a combination of corporation counsel and human services director. It was never my belief that that would be the permanent position. So during a time of opportunity, we could combine those positions, save additional money until that time when we had to go back to what was the normal way of operating, which is a full-time human services director. So I felt as administrator that it was better to try to save some money during that short period of time before we have to go back to what is normal operations than to continue to operate the old way and not possibly realize that savings.
Was corporation counsel full-time previously?
No, it was half-time. And as I explained to the executive committee, that if we try to hire a half-time, especially contract with a half-time corporation counsel, that the actual cost would be more expensive than hiring a full-time
I don't
corporation
disagree
counsel.
with that. My point is that it was not, the old way was not that it was full-time previously.
That what I'm talking about is the combination of corporation counsel and human services director, of which they are linked, Mr. Chair.
I understand that, but the corporation counsel position was never full-time for the county.
That is correct. At that time, we were lucky because, and it was explained to the executive committee, at that time, because of Mr. Wisnicki and being grandfathered in as a half-time position, he was eligible for retirement as well as for health insurance. That is no longer the case due to changes in state law.
I understand that, but my point is that the corporation counsel was not previously ever full-time for the county.
Correct, it wasn't.
The question on the job that Jeff had, wasn't he also
He was part-time DA,
grandfathered
assistant
in as
DA.
a part-time district,
Yeah.
assistant district attorney?
Correct.
But that's no longer available, as I recall.
It could be. The problem is that the cost for an assistant, a brand new assistant district attorney is less than what a jailer dispatcher makes. It's $27 and change. Therefore, it would not be attractive to a corporation counsel wanting to be a half-time ADA and a half-time corporation counsel.
We're getting off track on my question, which is fine. I'm not getting into the reasons of why, but I'm pointing out is where we're at and where we are going to be.
I may make just a comment. As far as employees, how many people we hire work for the county, that number is dictated to the board or whatever by the executive committee. If the executive committee says we are gonna have 150 full-time employees, then it's up to the finance committee to figure out how we're gonna pay for it.
Correct.
Sure, how
As-
many people in this committee are on executive? And, you know, we bring up the veterans assistant position and anything else. You know, the executive committee approves anything, so, but that's all fine.
All right, anything else come for the committee?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, next meeting, I thought at November 1st because I had some
Did we?
conflicts, we were gonna look at December 1,
That's
Thursday,
fine.
December 1st.
I had forgotten.
8 o'clock.
December.
I think that's what we had originally scheduled.
Thursday, December 1st.
Okay. My apologies.
That's okay. I just didn't know if something that might have changed. And then we're gonna look at January.
If you'd like, Mr. Chair.
First Friday in January would be the 6th.
I don't believe that'll work for me, but that's all right. It's a 9-day stretch, I'll be gone. Racing, yeah.
Um,
The season.
Are you gone on the 5th also?
Yeah, probably.
I can't do it on the following week. I can't do it 12th or the 13th. How about the? Are you gonna be back at the 11th? No? Yeah. Should we just, see everybody else can do the 5th, should we just leave it at 5th?
You mean the 6th, Mr. Chair?
I mean the 6th, I'm sorry. Okay. January 6th. Nothing else, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.